Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Beaudreau, I'd like to commend you for reaching out to the industry. What you just said earlier is a testament from what I hear back home, and I appreciate you working on solutions to get the people of South Louisiana and the Gulf Coast back to work. Do you have a production goal that y'all are going to try to set for the new 5-year plan?
No, we do not. As the government, we do not set production goals for private industry. We have projections based on the resource potential and anticipated levels of activity that we believe is the potential there. But actual production over time, especially over a long period of time, depends on a lot of different factors, including prices and other factors.
Of course, and one key component of that would be actual exploration, actually drilling test wells. Well, first of all, doing seismic, drilling test wells, trying to see what the reserves are. My concern is that the general manager for the Chinese National Offshore Company last week in Houston made a comment that their goal in the South China Sea was to have a 159 reserve replacement ratio in 2011. Now that's a very aggressive replacement of minerals in that area into that country. I mean, I don't know that we have that type of replacement going on in the OCS, and so I wanted to mention that to you because there's been a lot of criticism about speculation and speculators, and I believe that the president, if anyone is affecting speculators, it would be the president, because when you take off the table potential reserves or the ability to determine what other reserves, what other areas of the OCS have the potential for finds such as the Gulf of Mexico, then you affect a speculator because he recognizes that there's going to be a restriction in supply. And we know right now, because of a downturn in the European economy, which could affect the globe, that we're seeing a depression of oil prices. So we do know that supply and demand affects the price. And if there's anyone that's guilty of causing speculators to raise the price, I believe that it's the administration, by taking off the table the ability of the United States to adequately tap the supplies that are out there. And so I wish you'd take that message back up the chain of command, because I think if we went out and we did some good seismic data out in the mid-Atlantic, we would find that there are great potentials out there. I mean, 20 years ago, they said the Gulf of Mexico was dead. That's what the government's estimates were. And think about where we are today. And so I just would appreciate if you would take that back to the Secretary and let them know that these 5-year plans are important, not only to Americans for lowering their costs, but also to the markets as well. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
May I respond in one moment?
Sure. Yeah.
Thank you. Let me just respond by making clear that the 5-year plan, and we designed it specifically for this reason, does include the areas that we know have the most abundant resource potential. That those areas are well understood, there's good seismic in those areas, and good resource potential, and we understand that potential. With respect to other areas, such as the Mid and South Atlantic, while we don't schedule lease sales, we understand and agree with what you just said about the need to develop additional scientific information about the resource potential in those areas. It's for that reason that my agency issued a programmatic EIS, draft programmatic EIS, last month regarding geological and geophysical surveys in the Mid and South Atlantic. We aim to finish that EIS by the end of this year after receiving public comment, which would put us in a position to permit seismic surveys in the Mid and South Atlantic as early as next year to develop that type of information and to supplement our knowledge of the resource potential in that area. And so we're moving forward with that. That is administration policy.